Picture this. It's 11:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're lying in bed and you know you have to be up at 6 a.m. for work. You just checked your banking app to see if a direct deposit cleared, and while you were looking at your balance, you felt that familiar, heavy knot of financial anxiety in your stomach. So what do? You don't go to sleep. Instead, to distract yourself from the anxiety, you open up TikTok or Instagram or YouTube Shorts. You tell yourself just 5 minutes to decompress. Suddenly, it's 1:45 a.m. You wake up the next morning feeling like you've been hit by a truck. Because you're exhausted, you hit snooze 3 times. Because you hit snooze, you don't have time to pack a lunch. You drag yourself out the door, stop at the drive-thru for a $6 iced coffee just to feel alive, and later that afternoon, you drop $18 on a mediocre salad delivery because you're too brain dead to leave the office. Later that evening, while you're mindlessly scrolling again because your brain is completely fried, the algorithm serves you an ultra-targeted AI ad for a productivity planner or a new pair of noise-canceling headphones or a dietary supplement that promises to give you your energy back. You click buy with Apple Pay. It takes less than 2 seconds, frictionless, done. And then at the end of the month, you look at your credit card statement, look at your stagnant investment portfolio, and you wonder, where's all my money going? Why am I not getting ahead? If you're sitting there right now watching this and thinking, that is literally me, then you need to turn off all your other tabs and pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, because your money problem isn't actually a money problem. My name is Billy, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden math behind our daily habits. If you're someone who feels like you're working harder than ever, but your bank account isn't reflecting it, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I'm going to challenge a very deeply held belief right out of the gate here. When we talk about building wealth, getting out of debt, or finally getting ahead financially, the traditional financial advice industry tells you the same tired things. They tell you to make a budget. They tell you to stop buying lattes. They tell you to start a side hustle, get a second job, or ask for a raise. And here's the thing. Traditional financial advice completely misses the invisible force that is actually keeping you broke. Your budget isn't your biggest problem. Your income isn't your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is that your attention is being systematically drained, hijacked, and monetized by the most sophisticated algorithms in human history, and it is destroying your ability to build wealth. I call this the attention drain, and nobody is quantifying it until today. Let's look at exactly where we are right now. It is Q1 of 2026. The macroeconomic landscape has shifted dramatically over the last couple of years. Inflation has finally cooled down to about 2.2%. The Federal Reserve has stabilized interest rates, and technically, on paper, the economy is normalizing. But if you talk to everyday people, nobody feels normal. Nobody feels wealthy. In fact, consumer credit card debt just crossed the $1.4 trillion mark, which is an all-time record. Why? Because while inflation on groceries might have cooled down, the technology designed to separate you from your money has experienced a hyper-evolution. In early 2026, AI-driven predictive commerce is the standard. Algorithms are no longer just guessing what you want, they are analyzing your micro-hesitations. They measure the exact milliseconds you linger on a video. The average screen time for adults in Q1 2026 has ballooned to a staggering 8.5 hours a day, and the conversion rate for AI-targeted social commerce ads has increased by 42% year over year. They know exactly when your willpower is lowest. They know exactly when you are most susceptible to a dopamine hit. To understand how this is stealing your wealth, we have to look at the psychology of money. Think of your daily attention and your daily willpower like a battery. You wake up and ideally, you're at 100%. Every time you have to make a decision, focus on a difficult task, or resist a temptation, you drain that battery. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Now think about what scrolling does to your brain. Every single time you flick your thumb to watch a new 15-second video, your brain is processing new colors, new sounds, new context, and new emotional triggers. Your brain is essentially rapidly context switching hundreds of times an hour. This completely exhausts your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and logical reasoning. Here's what most people don't realize. The financial services and e-commerce industries are heavily relying on your prefrontal cortex being exhausted. When your prefrontal cortex goes offline because you've drained your attention battery, your amygdala takes over. The amygdala is the emotional reactive center of your brain. It doesn't care about your Roth IRA. It doesn't care about your 20-year retirement plan or your emergency fund. It cares about right now. It wants a quick hit of dopamine, serotonin, or comfort. When you are attention drained, you aren't making financial decisions like a rational adult. You're making financial decisions like a drunk hedge fund manager. You become wildly impulsive, highly emotional, and completely disconnected from long-term consequences. Let's actually quantify this. Let's look at the clear math using real dollar figures to see exactly how much this attention drain is stealing from you in direct consumer spending. Let's say your drained attention span leads to just 2 minor impulse purchases a week. And I'm not talking about huge things. I'm talking about a $15 TikTok shop gadget you saw at 11 p.m., a $20 Uber Eats delivery fee and tip because you were too mentally exhausted to cook the groceries you already bought, or a $5 in-app purchase. Let's be incredibly conservative and say this algorithmic impulse spending costs you $40 a week. $40 a week is $160 a month. That's $1,920 a year. Now, you might be thinking, Billy, $2,000 a year isn't going to make or break my financial life. I can survive losing $2,000. But look, we are investors here. We don't just look at what money is worth today. We look at what money is worth over its life cycle. If instead of bleeding that $160 a month to AI-targeted micro distractions, you invested it into a standard S&P 500 index fund. Historically, the market returns about 8% to 10% annually over long periods. Let's use a conservative 8% return. If you invested that $160 a month for the next 30 years, that money would compound into $238,500. I want you to really let that sink in. $250,000. That is the true cost of your scrolling habit. That is the wealth being actively stolen from your future self because an algorithm figured out how to hijack your exhausted brain for $40 a week today. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Billy, but I'm young. I have time. I'll just make more money. If I start a side hustle or push for a promotion, I can out-earn my scrolling habit. I can have my TikTok and my index funds too. And that brings me to my second mathematical point. The greatest wealth-destroying factor of the attention drain isn't just what it makes you spend. It is what it prevents you from earning. Let's talk about the consumption to creation ratio. Most financially struggling people have a consumption to creation ratio of about 100 to 1. Meaning for every 100 hours they spend consuming content, scrolling, watching, and being distracted, they spend 1 hour actually creating value, learning a high-income skill, or building an asset. Wealthy people actively flip this ratio. Let's look at the time tax. The average screen time in Q1 2026, as I mentioned, is 8.5 hours. Let's say 4 of those hours are absolute junk food screen time, mindless swiping. That is 28 hours a week. That is 1,456 hours a year. What is your time worth? Even if we value your time at a modest $25 an hour, which is a very achievable rate for basic freelance work, virtual assistants, or introductory consulting, those 1,456 hours represent $36,400 of lost earning potential every single year. If you just took half of your distraction time, just 2 hours a day, and applied it to focused, uninterrupted deep work to build a side business, learn coding, master digital marketing, or get a high-level certification, you could increase your base income by $20,000 to $30,000 a year within 18 months. But you can't do that if you don't have an attention span. You see, the modern economy rewards deep work. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. Cal Newport wrote a whole book on this, and his thesis has never been more relevant than it is right now in 2026. As AI takes over shallow work, writing basic emails, generating standard code, creating basic graphics, the only human skills that will command a premium salary are complex problem solving, deep critical thinking, and high-level strategy. All of those high-income skills require intense, unbroken attention. If your brain is wired to need a new visual stimulus every 15 seconds, you are biologically incapable of doing deep work. You are literally making yourself obsolete in the 2026 job market. Your inability to focus isn't just a bad habit, it is actively capping your lifetime earning potential. This is where it gets really interesting because the attention drain doesn't just impact your spending and your earning, it absolutely wreaks havoc on your investing. In the financial world, there is a very direct correlation between how often you look at your portfolio and how poorly it performs. Fidelity famously did a study years ago where they analyzed which of their retail accounts had the best overall performance. Do you know who the best performing investors were? They were people who had died or people who had completely forgotten they had accounts. Why? Because investing is supposed to be boring. Wealth accumulation is supposed to be the financial equivalent of watching paint dry. You buy high quality assets, you hold them for decades, you let compounding do the heavy lifting, and you go live your life. But in Q1 2026, the financial industry has fully gamified investing. Brokerage apps are designed exactly like social media platforms. They have leaderboards, push notifications, confetti animations, and algorithmic news feeds. When your attention span is fractured, you develop an insatiable need for action. You log into your brokerage app and you see that your index funds are up 0.1% for the day. Boring. But then your attention gets caught by a trending ticker symbol. Maybe it's a new AI infrastructure firm or a newly issued crypto token or a 0 days to expiration, 0 DTE options play that some influencer claims just made them a millionaire overnight. Because your prefrontal cortex is exhausted and your amygdala is screaming for dopamine, you experience extreme FOMO, fear of missing out. You sell your stable, compounding assets and you chase the shiny object. You buy at the peak of the hype cycle right when the smart money is selling. 2 weeks later, the trend dies, the asset drops 40%, you panic sell at a loss, and you go looking for the next dopamine hit. This is the leaky bucket analogy. Imagine you have a bucket that you are trying to fill with water. The water is your wealth. You can turn on the hose full blast, meaning you get a great job, you increase your income, you start side hustles. But if your bucket has a dozen holes drilled into the bottom of it, it doesn't matter how much water you pump in. The bucket will never fill up. Your fractured attention is drilling holes in your financial bucket. It causes you to incur trading fees, short-term capital gains taxes, and massive principal losses because you simply cannot sit still. The financial markets are incredibly efficient at transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient, and the attention economy is designing you to be the most impatient person in the room. All right, so I've painted a pretty bleak picture. I've shown you how the algorithms are draining your energy, how that exhaustion leads to impulse spending, how it's capping your earning potential by destroying your ability to do deep work, and how it's tricking you into blowing up your investment portfolio. You understand the math, you see the psychology. Now, how do we fix it? How do we reclaim our attention and by extension, reclaim our wealth? I'm going to give you a clear, actionable framework. I call this the Focus Dividend Protocol. These are not vague ideas. These are strict boundaries you need to implement today if you want to survive the algorithmic warfare of 2026. Step 1, the friction formula for spending. The reason algorithms are so effective at taking your money is that they remove all friction from the buying process. Apple Pay, one-click buy, saved credit cards. You can spend $100 without even changing your posture on the couch. We need to artificially reintroduce friction to protect your tired brain from itself. First, go into your phone settings and delete Apple Pay, Google Pay, and any saved credit cards from your browsers. I mean it. Right now, if you want to buy something online, you must physically stand up, walk to wherever your wallet is, pull out your credit card, and manually type in the 16-digit number, the expiration date, and the CVV. By forcing yourself to do this, you are buying yourself 60 seconds of time. In those 60 seconds, your rational brain has a chance to wake up and say, wait, do I actually need a 14th insulated water bottle? Second, implement the 48-hour cart rule. If you see something online that you want, you are allowed to put it in your cart, but you're not allowed to check out for 48 hours. If, after 2 full days, you still rationally want the item and it fits your budget, buy it. I guarantee you that 90% of the time, the dopamine craving will pass and you will close the tab without spending a dime. That is instant money saved. Step 2, grayscale and the physical distance rule. We need to repair your dopamine baseline. Your phone screen is essentially a digital slot machine and the bright saturated colors are designed to keep you hooked. Go into your accessibility settings and turn your phone screen to grayscale. Take all the color out of it. It is shocking how quickly a smartphone becomes boring when Instagram and TikTok look like a 1950s newspaper. Next, implement the physical distance rule. The biggest wealth destroyer is the 11 p.m. doom scroll that ruins your sleep and destroys your productivity the next day. Starting tonight, buy a cheap $10 alarm clock from Amazon or Target. Plug your phone charger in the kitchen or the bathroom, or literally anywhere that is not your bedroom. Your phone does not cross the threshold of your bedroom ever. When you lie down in bed, you will experience a phantom withdrawal. You will reach for a phone that isn't there. When that happens, read a physical book or just go to sleep. Within 2 weeks, your sleep quality will skyrocket. You will wake up at 100% battery instead of 60%. Because you have energy, you'll pack your lunch, saving $15 a day. Because you have energy, you won't buy the $6 afternoon coffee. Because you have energy, you'll have the mental bandwidth to spend 45 minutes after work researching a new index fund or studying for a certification instead of collapsing onto the couch. Step 3, the boredom investment strategy. We need to lock down your portfolio so your attention drain can't touch it. If you have a brokerage app on your phone that sends you push notifications about stock price movements, delete the app. You do not need real-time ticker updates in your pocket. Set up automated investing. Have a set percentage of your paycheck automatically routed into a low-cost broad market index fund or target date retirement fund before the money ever hits your checking account. Pay yourself first automatically, and then only look at your portfolio once a quarter, 4 times a year. That's it. If you feel the absolute burning need to gamble on individual stocks or crypto trends because all your friends are talking about it, create what I call a sandbox account. Take 5% and no more than 5% of your investable cash and put it in a separate app. You can day trade that 5% all you want. You can buy the hype, chase the trends, and play the game. But your core 95% wealth building portfolio remains untouched, unmonitored, and unbothered by your daily attention fluctuations. Step 4, conduct an attention audit. I want you to track your screen time and your finances side by side for the next 30 days. Most people track their money with a budgeting app, but they don't track their time. Go into your phone's screen time settings every Sunday. Write down how many hours you spent on social media or entertainment apps. Then, right next to it, look at your bank statement. I want you to literally draw a line between the spikes in your screen time and the spikes in your impulse spending. When you visually see the data, when you see that the week you spent 35 hours on TikTok is the exact same week you blew $150 on useless junk and ate out 5 times, the illusion shatters. You will start to view your attention as currency because that's exactly what it is. Look, the system is not broken. The system is working exactly as it was designed to work. It was designed to keep you exhausted, to keep you slightly anxious, and to keep you spending every spare dollar you have on things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. The companies building these algorithms have billions of dollars in Q12026 funding, massive data centers, and armies of PhD psychologists all working together with one singular goal: to capture your attention and drain your wallet. You cannot out-budget an algorithm. You cannot out-earn a broken attention span. The only way to win this game is to refuse to play it on their terms. You have to fiercely protect your focus. Treat your attention with the same level of security and respect that you treat your bank account, because ultimately they are the exact same thing. Where your attention goes, your money flows. If you can master the discipline of putting the phone down, embracing boredom, and directing your unbroken focus toward building skills and investing quietly, you will have a superpower that 95% of the population simply does not possess anymore. You won't just build wealth, you will build a life of actual freedom. If this video opened your eyes or gave you a perspective you hadn't considered, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right down below, give the video a like, and in the comments, I want you to tell me exactly one boundary you are setting with your phone starting today. Let's hold each other accountable. As always, keep your focus sharp, keep your investments boring, and I'll see you in the next one.